Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special broadcast of Dark Wolf's Den. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as Dark Wolf. Today we have a very special broadcast for you guys. See, it turns out at the end of the 2019 West Coast Mandela Effect Conference that we never got the chance to do our final panel roundtable. So, as a treat to the entire community, we have decided to do it online for you guys. So, make sure you get your questions ready. We will definitely be taking them. I do ask if it's a panel question, you specify panel. And if it's to a specific creator, you also specify that. So, we will be watching the chat. We got quite a few people in here. I'll do a chat shout out here in just a second. But first up, ladies and gentlemen, our first panelist. She is a best-selling author. She has her own podcast called Living the Quantum Dream. She's been featured on Discovery Channel, the History Channel, Coast to Coast AM, the BBC, and has presented many papers at different conferences, as well as being published in journals under quantum biology, the placebo effect, quantum physics, positive psychology, sociology, and alternative medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, the person that asks us every day, how good can it get? Sociology and alternative. How good can it get? Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson.
Hey, everybody. So glad to be here. And thank you so much, Jerry, for the great introduction. I'm glad we're doing this today. Glad we get to be together again. That was the best weekend of my life. So glad to have it continue.
Well, it is my honor and pleasure to host this again. I'm glad to be back on the hosting seat just one more time. It's not over yet, so I am so excited. All right, next up we have the quantum businessman himself, a person who really has helped a lot in helping to put together a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. This whole team's been great, but this guy's really helped a lot in areas where others haven't been able to. Ladies and gentlemen, the quantum businessman, Mr. Chris Anatra.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Jerry, Cynthia, happy to be here.
It's an honor to have you here, my friend. So am I saying your last name right? I meant to ask you that the other day.
If you're more of Italian, it would be Anitra.
Anatra.
But, yeah, you're pretty close. You're pretty close.
Excellent. I've been trying to get the accent down. I knew it was something like that.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Chris. We really appreciate it. All right, next up, ladies and gentlemen, you know him as unbiased and on the fence. It is Shane Robinson.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
Hey, Shane.
Appreciate you coming on, Shane. It really means a lot. We'll kind of do a little review here in just a second, get everybody's thoughts about everything before we go forward with more questions. Ladies and gentlemen, next up, we have Miss Lauren Cannell Pavelka. She is the author of the book, The Mandela Effect or the Miracle Effect, 13 Reasons Why I'm the Wolf and You Are Too. So we really appreciate you being here, Lauren. How are we doing today?
Pretty well, thanks. Good to be here with you guys.
It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here, ma'am. All right, last but not least, we have an amazing artist. Maybe you guys have seen some of the pictures and videos that have went up of her art. Here's the girl herself. She's been on with Suso. She's been on, I believe, with Shane. Is that correct? Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kimberly Lynn Henson. You're muted.
Kimberly.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to see everyone's faces, and I'm really excited to see what wants to end our conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2019 West Coast Mandela Effect Conference speaker panel. This is normally we'd have a round of applause. Problem is you can't hear that over the internet. So I want to start going down the line, just kind of get everybody's thoughts and feelings so far on everything that's transpired, how it's been, if it's inspired you, the whole nine yards, starting with Cynthia. How's it been, Cynthia, since the conference?
Oh, like I said, best weekend of my life. I usually, when I start a new book project, it goes pretty well. Like I can write a book in a year, and that's fast. This last like 2 weeks, I've written 90 pages of a new book. It's going like a meteor. I've never written anything so fast or with so much passion, and I credit that to you guys, to the conference, to the whole experience. So, thank you so much. And it's going to be about the Mandela effect, obviously. So that goes without saying, but it's about the society of this Mandela effect, about the culture of it, the coming together of it, the way that we can be much more when we are together than we are when we're separate, because you can get so many more of what Chris calls nuggets, what Kimberly Lynn Hansen refers to as, that truth. And Shane talks about it too. So I think all of us are in pursuit of what's the meaning of it, what's going on. And that's what's driving me to take a look back at 20 plus years of my involvement in this and where I think it's going next. So I feel like I'm in a perfect position to put that together, to provide a history of what we've all been doing, what we've all contributed, speaking with a voice to bring us together, to reference all of your work, and to talk about where we can go together. I think we've never seen this before. I think we're in a new chapter for humanity, like Kimberly's art suggests, like Chris talks about, like Shane and Lauren reference, and like you too. Thanks most of all to you, Dark Wolf, because without you, this conference never would have happened. So I really have to thank you with all my heart for being the best MC, the best host, the best organizer that we could possibly have had. So thanks so much.
Hear, hear.
You're muted, Jerry.
Absolutely. There we go. Now let's try that again. Thank you, Cynthia, so much. It was both an honor and a pleasure to do it. I had such a blast. And of anybody to write the history of the effect, but the person who's been doing it for 20 plus years. So yeah, it's more than fitting that things have played out the way they have. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you as the keynote speaker. Thank you so much. Chris Anatra, tell us your thoughts on the whole situation, bud.
You're muted.
As soon as I unmute, I'll tell you everything. No, I thought it was extremely powerful. So all of us as speakers coming together, I don't ever think like the system wanted that to happen. Everyone that was in the audience, everyone that's been Mandela affected, I don't know how you classify us, but we're all coming out and we're all like sharing and learning from each other, gaining encouragement from each other, gaining bravery from each other to go forward and let the world know that there's something going on here. And, since the conference, I feel like I've been basking in the afterglow, so to speak, of just being with so many powerful spirits, so many powerful souls. It's really, really amazing, life-changing, and it's going to be interesting to see what we all continue to create together. So I'm really excited about that.
I fully agree. Sorry about that. Didn't mean I muted the wrong one.
We'll get it right. We'll figure this out.
I'm brand new to this program, guys. Bear with me. I've never actually used this to stream before, so it is going to be a little quirky here and there. Chris, I really, really appreciate everything you've done to help me put this together behind the scenes. I know I started the idea, but the whole team, guys, this would not have been possible without anybody on this team. The entire team all played their part. We've all pitched in ideas and everything. But yeah, Chris, I thank you so much for all the work you've done to put in it from your side. It's really meant a lot to me, brother.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing. When people actually watch all of our presentations, we all have so many, we all complement each other in such really interesting ways. And we all bring out these little golden nuggets of truth, so to speak, that maybe not have been said in quite the same way before, but having it all together is just going to give people another balanced way to look at everything. So again, thank you.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you. And it's funny because it wasn't planned this way. Once again, like I talked about at the conference, you guys will see that talk later. But every talk built on the next talk. Everybody wrote their talks independently, was lined up, independently. every talk literally built on the one before it. It was really, really amazing to watch. And again, you guys will get to see that as we get that posted. We'll discuss that later. Ladies and gentlemen, next up, Shane Robinson, buddy. How was everything at the conference? What are your thoughts? Let us know.
Oh man, it was absolutely wonderful to meet all of you and to everyone that came out to the event. It was such a great energy in the room. I just like everybody was so high vibe to be around people that actually see what they were seeing and to be able to discuss things without looking like they're crazy. And I don't know, it was really a breath of fresh air is all I can really say about it. And just to build on what you were saying about how all of our talks seem to complement each other and build off of each other. And really, it was really a comprehensive look at the effect and so many different aspects of it. I was really honored to be a part of it.
Well, it was an honor to have you be a part of it. And, you know, you and I kind of had a little special relationship going back before everybody else on this team and I.
Yeah, early 2017.
Yeah, early 2017, exactly. You and I have streamed together on different channels and together on our own channels. And to be able to meet you in person, that was truly a great pleasure, my friend.
Yes, it was awesome.
Anybody who ever gets the chance to meet Shane, I apologize, but this man is tall. This man is tall. I was really surprised. You know, you see him, you don't really kind of get a good judgment of a person's height when they're sitting down on a camera. He's taller than I had him in my mind. Thanks for being a part of this, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to be working with you on this project.
Pleasure's all mine.
Lauren, how are we doing today? What are your thoughts on the conference? And ever since then, how's it been going?
Is she MK Ultra? I'm just playing. I didn't realize she was frozen this whole time. Oh. Oops.
And
Quit laughing, Shane.
Lauren is having some technical issues. Keep trying, Lauren. And as soon as I hear you, I will stop and acknowledge you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kimberly Lynn Hansen, the artist who put an amazing display on at the conference, as well as an incredible talk. You've seen him on Suso's channel as well as Shane's. What were your thoughts on everything, Kim? I know you're kind of new to this community, kind of first time at a conference, something like that. Well, what were your thoughts on everything?
I have words to express how clear and fun every step was. Really fun, and I was blind going into it, and at the end, looking back in retrospect, what we were able to bring to the table and allowed to speak so clearly is something that, yes, Cynthia's book is documentable. This is something that in the future we're going to look back on. Well, all of humanity is going to look back on as firsts. This is, we've, as humanity has done in the past, searched, the globe and explored all of the land and mapped the three-dimensional world that we lived on. We're creating the next map in the place, the new world that's within all of us. And I think this is our first steps. And Cynthia's new book documenting this, that's what the new maps look like. And that's really exciting.
I think Cynthia's book's going to be absolutely incredible. I cannot wait till this comes out to get a copy of it. Kim, thank you so very, very much. I cannot wait to hear your answers to some of these questions that come up. You've always got such intriguing answers from an artist's perspective. I love an artist's mind. Lauren, welcome back. Let's try it again. How we doing? And what are your thoughts on everything?
You unmuted, but it muted back, Lauren, for some reason. There you go.
There we are. And I think she froze up again. Are you with us there, Lauren? You're muted and your cam's frozen. I can't unmute you. All right, I do apologize if I'm being rude. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be rude. Try one more time, Lauren. Come on back with us. I'm sorry. All right, so she should be back again here shortly. Hopefully she'll have a little bit better luck next time. And it looks like I lost that first question because it wouldn't let me copy it, but I do know what it was. So the first question was to the panel. Have you found that you're manifesting almost instantly now, and how are you dealing with that? First, Cynthia.
Yes. Am I on? Can you hear me? I hope so. Okay. Yeah. Yes, indeed. I did find that out early on because I went through a Kundalini awakening. So pretty much anything I thought manifested instantly. And boy, was that ever a wake up. It meant that I was creating things regardless what mental or emotional state I was in. To give you an idea, I could walk into the kitchen if I was feeling some degree of anxiety, and suddenly the overhead light would go out, the dishwasher would like make a horrible sound and stop working. All the devices in the room would go down. I could shut down computers, it was just terrible. So I had to learn to stay grounded, to work with my energy. I have written a book about that. The Aura Advantage book talks about energy. It's super important to stay focused on how to stay grounded once you're running that degree of energy in your life. If you are, then you know what I'm talking about. You'll have that sliders effect. If you're driving down the street, the lights go out. If you can do that kind of thing, you need to stay grounded, believe me. And then the other thing is, I personally adopted a very spiritual path, cleaning up everything on the inside so that my thoughts, my heart, my everything I thought I needed was in alignment, basically with the highest level of my ability to be a conscious, sentient being in a physical form. That means being aware of how blessed I am, how much I actually love everybody, even if I'm angry with someone, not having any ill wishes toward anyone. I have to actually walk this talk. I can't not do that. And that's been since the mid 90s. So it's been 25 plus years on this path for me. And it requires just raising my spiritual game. But a simple way to do it is my favorite question: how good can it get? I find that if you keep asking that question, it'll guide you gently upward at your own speed, whatever that may be. Thanks for the question. It was really good.
I could only imagine. Like, I've done some manifestation, as I discussed, when we were at the conference, but I can only imagine just like having that much control and walking in and just everything going berserk. That'd be freaky.
Well, I got to tell you, it doesn't feel like control. I mean, it feels out of control. And it's easy when that's happening to start pointing fingers like, oh, they did this to me, or someone's got it in for me. And maybe that's true. But even so, I still have to clean up my own act. So
I think there's a good message in there for all of us, cleaning up our insides as far as the way we think and our emotional state and all that. I think that's got a lot to do with manifestation as far as emotional state. But moving the question along, Chris, how about yourself?
Yeah, so manifesting. So it definitely seems that things are becoming even more synchronistic before. I'm finding situations just like in my business world, being able to have problems come up, but then be able to manifest solutions to them that I wasn't expecting, and then how people just come out of the woodwork where someone might have left my company that was very valuable. And then, oh, wow, like how are we ever going to replace that person? And then 4 people come into my life that all are candidates, and I hire them all because I don't want to lose anyone else. So those types of things have been really, really good. It makes you feel positive about things, especially when you pay attention to them, that it's not coincidences, it's actually synchronicities, and getting sparks for ideas, getting, so many different things that, like, things just all coming together. And I really think that this conference was something that helped, like, spark things and are bringing things to another level. So I can definitely see that in my life, for sure, for sure.
All right, so that's interesting from a business perspective. How, and I have noticed this when I'm at work and whatnot, how certain things will just so synchronistically play out in such a way that there's no way. It's all by chance, random chance that these things happen, but it plays out in such a way that's perfect. I mean, there's no other words for it.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me even pay, like, extra attention to things like, oh, did I just meet that person? Or did this random person just sent me an email from someone I haven't talked to for 1.5 years? All of a sudden now, boom, they've popped into my life again for a reason, or to help with a certain situation, whatever it is. So yeah, it's really interesting. The manifestations and getting to that level it's fun. It's fun to watch them as they come up.
It is just to watch how everything plays out. It is as mind-boggling as it is fun to watch. I fully agree. Shane, manifestation. How do you deal with it? Do you accidentally manifest? Is that a thing?
I think we're always manifesting personally, and I think it's sort of having this awareness of, wow, I need to really be in control of my thoughts, observe them, and because I know sometimes we'll sit and we'll, think about bad things a lot, or maybe get impatient or worry and all this, and I think it only feeds or puts energy into the negative. So I think becoming aware of your thoughts and then choosing good thoughts to dwell on or daydream about is I don't know about instant, but it's pretty quick. I do try to do the instant thing, like with parking spaces. I play with it, I have fun. I'm going to have a great parking spot. I'm going to pull in. Somebody's just going to be pulling out, and then I just trust God or the universe, whatever you feel comfortable with. And if it unfolds right, then maybe I felt it right. I think it's sort of coming in alignment with your thoughts and your feelings, and really being in alignment. And when you can get to that sweet spot, I think things just unfold perfectly. Being in the vortex, as some say.
Have you, before we move on, just real quick, I want to throw this question in there. Have you accidentally manifested?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've had it where, worrying about a car issue, or like, hey, is that a funny sound? And then you start to worry about it, and then, it can manifest into something else. And so, yeah, I do believe, a lot of us are doing it on accident all the time, but in a negative way. And once you have that awareness of that, and then you take control of your thoughts, hold every thought captive, as the Bible says, and then really, go with what you want for your reality instead of worrying about the things you don't want. And I think that's the biggest shift. If I just sum it up in a few words, it would be, daydream about the things you want and stop worrying about the things you don't want.
Here. Well put. Kimberly, manifestation. You are the queen of manifestation. I swear to goodness. You got a little book coming out about that, the way I understand. Manifestation. Do you do it? Is it accidental? Is it on purpose? How do you deal with that?
I'm hearing your words. I'm not sure. I don't use the word manifestation, so I'm not sure what you mean by manifestation. So can I ask what you mean by it, and then I can...
Okay, so my podium story.
Oh, so like things appearing out of nowhere?
Things that you
Nowhere?
are consciously or even maybe unconsciously attempting to make appear in your life or in your reality around you.
Okay. So I'm just going to repeat it back to you, and you tell me if this sounds correct. So if I am curious about experiencing something in my everyday life, can I think about it and then experience it.
And then it manifests itself out of nowhere. Like your friend will call, hey, want to go to this place that you know.
Got it. Okay. Yes. So the way that I have incorporated the understanding of that in my life is because from listening to all of you as well and hearing, oh, don't do this, otherwise bad things will happen. And there's the accidental, and then there's the control variables. I put them all into one experience. So I design a choice in my being to experience, and then I allow it to accidentally get better. So that way the accidents become part of the control.
There you go. Tell us about the Wisher-Washer game real quick before we move on.
Okay. Well, the origins of how it came to be.
More of just what it is, and I would like to hear the how it came to be story, but yeah, just kind of what it is.
What it is. So how it came to be was I was spending a day with my nephew. His name's Shay. And it was kind of a forced scenario where him and I had to be at a family event at this place that I normally wouldn't go to. And so I naturally was drawn to the child who was like, hey, let's make something fun here. And so I invented a game where I came up with an object that's simple to find, but still unusual to find. And we were at West Edmonton Mall. So it was a washer. And so, it's something where it's unusual to find at a mall, but also like my analytical mind could justify it. And so I taught him what a washer was, and then him and I walked around. I taught him how to find things out of nowhere. And so that's how the Wishwasher game came to be. And there's lots of water features within the mall. So once we found a wishwasher, then we would put our wish in the hole in a washer. And then we would ask our hearts to bring us to the water to throw it in. And then I taught him how to pray in the present moment. So then not only was the wishwasher the item, but the wish within the washer became another level. And so I had so much fun working with my nephew on the Wishwasher game that, when adults, friends of mine would be, it all started with like, so what are you working on these days? And like, I'm presenting at this Mandela Effect conference. And lots of my friends have no idea this side of reality that we work with. And so when they were asking about the Mandela Effect, this is their first time hearing about it. So yeah, multiple timelines. Or like, what? So it's like, here, I'll show you what it kind of feels like. And so I took my friend Dathan on a day in no time because he didn't know that it was linear time is just one aspect. And so I taught him the Wishwasher game. And so we spent all day in New York City, and it works on adults too. And he had so much fun learning the Wishwasher game that the next day, what he thought he found was a wishwasher, when he picked it up, it was a diamond ring. So, and he texted me, and I was so elated, and it was so joyful that now if adult friends of mine are interested and curious about what I've been up to, I teach them the Wishwasher game.
So the Wishwasher game is of itself a manifestation game. That's exactly what manifestation is. That's why I wanted to bring that up. That nails on the head what manifestation is. In a game form, nonetheless.
Right, and well, the word manifestation to me feels like you are in one reality, and and you're almost bringing something into that reality. Whereas in my mind, the structure of is you are moving into a reality in which it's there. Does that make sense? So that's why the word manifestation feels a bit limited to me, because it feels like you're staying in the same place and the thing is coming to you. Whereas in the structure that I practice it, I'm actually going to the reality in which it's there.
That's one way to look at it, and we can always sit here and debate for the next couple hours the
I'm not debating.
Of time. No, I know you're not. My point is, there's so many different ideas what it could be, like whether we're timeline jumping or we're pulling something in. We can literally debate that for the next couple hours. So on that note, Lauren, let's try it without the camera, with the microphone. Welcome back.
Okay. Hi, Jerry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. You sound wonderful. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Tell us your thoughts on the conference.
Oh my goodness, the conference, guys, I missed like the whole first part of this broadcast. This stinks. I'm so sorry, but I feel like I'm with family. And that's what I thought of the conference, both with the panelists and then everybody who came out. It was just such an amazing, inspiring experience. And I'm looking forward to all of the amazing things that we're going to be creating together. Everybody got really inspired from this. It's so exciting.
You have no idea. And I can still feel that energy just between us. Like the energy in the room, somebody mentioned earlier, was just absolutely off the charts. Like I'm sure you could feel it at the edges of town. And I'm not exaggerating there. Lauren, manifestation. Do you find yourself manifesting just out of the random? Like, do you control that? And how do you deal with that?
So, like I mentioned in my presentation, I had some interesting health issues that happened along with my spiritual awakening into the Mandela effect. I think that we are all constantly manifesting. I happened to be manifesting health issues. And the Mandela effect was an opportunity for me to sort of switch gears and begin to focus my mind on health and begin to manifest good things. However, I will say, as a Christian, as somebody who grew up in a Christian home with a lot of Christian ministers in my family, the idea of manifestation was really like a foreign concept to me. And it freaked me out very much. And I literally used to think of God as a man who lived in the clouds. And God, so I had like an external locus of control. Like God, the man in the clouds, controlled my life. And when I began to notice synchronicities and manifestations, it scared me so much. I really thought oh my gosh, am I the Antichrist? Am I the devil? Is something wrong? And that's really unfortunate. I think that a lot of Christians sort of have had their minds, not a lot of Christians, but some Christians have had their minds kind of slanted in that direction, because the truth is that Jesus came to this earth and called us brothers and sisters, told us we would do these and greater things, and some of us forgot part of that message, and we do manifest. And it's exciting, and I'm learning how to get better control of it. And yes, I do notice things sometimes where I can manifest on a dime and it still freaks me out a bit. I'm still getting used to it. And I'm really grateful for delayed manifestations too, because sometimes my thoughts aren't always in the direction that I would really prefer my reality to go. So, still learning.
And that was something else somebody else touched on, the fact that we can accidentally manifest things if we don't watch what we think.
Exactly.
So that's a good point too. And I like that you brought this religious aspect into it, because the next question from the chat, from Majestic, and thank you JW for that last question. That was an amazing question. You guys have any questions, put them in chat. We will be taking them. That's kind of the whole point of this thing. So make sure you got your questions ready. Next up, Majestic Madness asked, and I love it when you put it on the screen like this: didn't the demons spot you when you accidentally stumbled upon your power to manipulate the forces? So your power to manifest, did you find that there was things fighting you or demons coming at you? Cynthia, you first.
Yes. Well, I've had a lifelong kind of an issue with feeling sensitive to what you might call dark forces. Ever since I was a child, I'd have flying dreams, excuse me, and then I'd feel like I'm grabbed by these dark entities and pulled down. That's been happening all my life. So I've been, I guess you could say, keenly aware of this, even though I grew up in a household raised by a father who was an atheist. My mother was an agnostic. So I'm hearing what they're telling me, but I'm looking at what I'm seeing, and I'm realizing these thought forms are real to someone who's as intuitive as I am and as sensitive as I am. This is real. So yes, I felt like things did spot me right away. I felt like I've been pursued, if you want to call it that, all my life. And I think it's interesting. I've mentioned it briefly that in 2010, I felt a huge turnaround. I was part of that turnaround. Well, I would say for humanity. I think some of us feel called to help all of humanity in our various ways. And when we feel that inspiration and can get together with others to help, we can make big changes. And I saw evidence of that in 2010. That was the year Fiona Broome labeled the Mandela effect. That was the year I had 3 time travelers tell me independently that they'd been let go from a time travel US government program. And they were letting me know that they would have known that I existed if, because they would have seen me. Now, I was flying under the radar since the 90s. If you wonder why didn't you guys see me, I don't think I was in all realities. I'm pretty sure I wasn't, and that was intentional. Never mind why. It's too big a subject. We could spend a whole weekend on this subject. I don't want to get into it that deep. Long story short, it doesn't matter if demons spot you. If you stay true to whatever your deepest faith may be. If that's science, go with science. If it's God, go with God. I was raised by an atheist, so I don't have judgments about what people need to believe. But one thing I know for sure, when you know what good is for you and you align yourself with that and you make sure that you are totally in harmony with whatever that is, if it's science, great. If it's God, great. But whatever your highest ultimate feeling of God is, or goodness rather, you're going to be fine. And there's a philosophical framework to support that by philosophers like Nicholas Rescher, like Leibniz, who created the foundation that all of science is built on. So it doesn't matter if the demons spot you. You just need to get stronger, and you can do it. I think that's part of the process. We have to learn how to do it. When I was a child, I learned how to lucid dream. I had to stay awake inside my dreams and deal with them. And so that was good. And there's a lot more. I don't want to tie up the whole thing. That's a huge subject, Majestic Madness. Wrote a children's book, Karen Kimball and the Dreamweaver's Web, to get into some of it, because I could talk about in fiction what I can't really talk about much in real life. So that's there if anybody's interested.
And I think you bring a good point there. It's kind of off topic for the question, but the fact that you can do certain things in fiction,
yeah,
that you can get away with while telling the truth.
Yep.
But I like that whole idea. All right. So, Chris, when you started realizing you could manifest, did the demons come at you?
They're here now. No. Cynthia almost spit out her coffee. Okay. Oops. Yeah, you know what? I think the way I would respond to that question is, one of the ways I think of myself is like, you ever hear that expression, like a sleeper cell agent? I was sound asleep for pretty much my entire life until just the last couple of years. And when you start to go through that awakening process that for me began pretty much with the Mandela effect, there were 2 things for me. And the Mandela effect was probably the number one thing that really was like, wow. And yes, there are things, dark forces that may not like it. It goes against their agenda, or whether it's things related to artificial intelligence, or I don't want to even talk about those and give them any more credit than they need. But I think it makes it, at first it could be disconcerting what happens, but then it only makes you stronger. You begin to figure out how to protect yourself and take steps so that things don't affect you like they would, like if you're out in a rowboat in the ocean and it's going carried by the tide in any direction. You want to make sure you get your paddles out and you're rowing in the right direction and you're going where you want to go. But yes, I would say that, when things start to open up for you, there are many different forces that become observant of you all of a sudden. And I think too that there's a timing issue that's involved. I like to call it wake up dates. I think a lot of us have wake up dates so that, there'd be a certain point in our life where we would be ready to awaken, not necessarily on that date, but at least on that date and afterwards. So the bottom line is to stay strong and to stay with the light. So that's what my advice would be.
Good answer. Good answer. Yeah, that makes sense. Stay positive, stay with the light. And I like that you said try not to focus on the dark as much as possible. You're right. The more you focus on the light, the more you're going to manifest the light.
Exactly.
I fully agree. Shane Robinson, didn't the demon spot you when you accidentally stumbled upon your powers to manipulate the forces?
Well, I think just to build on the two previous speakers, Cynthia and Chris, that there's really not much need for opposition if you aren't on your path. So, of course, as you begin to wake up, you're going to come across this opposition. And, I think a lot of us have dealt with more opposition as we become more and more awake. And I think it's just part of the process. The more powerful you become, the more attention you're going to get from opposition forces, maybe that don't want you to, even thought forms. I actually like to think of it more like thought forms that come in and try to question you. And you can just think of it back to the whole, the left brain trying to overanalyze things and question the intuitive hits that you get to do things. You really want to do that? You're going to seem crazy. But yeah, it can go much further beyond that to where it even feels like you've got dark forces maybe haunting you. And I think these become ankle biters once you sort of stay on your path, you stay in that vortex, you stay on purpose, and just trust that you're living for a higher purpose above what you are, and they've got your back. However you want to think of them, as angels, the Holy Spirit, God, or whatever. You've got a whole team that are just guiding you along and protecting you. And the less focus that you put on them, as they say, where attention goes, energy flows. And I think they are really negligible at a certain point, personally.
And once again, that goes to focusing on the light, not the dark. So it's what you focus on that you manifest into your life.
I believe so.
I fully agree once again. Kimberly Lynn Henson, how about you? Did you have dark forces try to really start messing with you when you try to live non-linearly or in no time or anything like that?
No. I'm going to be as authentic as I can without trying to sound incompassionate. I don't have dark forces influx my creative process at all. I do highly understand that whatever darkness seemingly appears, is just a personification of some sort of doubt I have internally, as in discord with how natural and perfect the real process is. So when I witness some sort of negative aspect in my external life, I understand that if it is somebody speaking in doubt towards me or acting in against me, I extend my love farther. I want to understand that person better. I understand that they are just a reflection of a piece of me that still wonders, is this so good that it can't be true? And so the darkness to me is just a mystery. I didn't know I could love that far yet. And that's the truth.
Gotcha. And once again, it's always good to have a multitude of perspectives on here. I like that. Lauren, are you with us, Lauren?
Well, in voice, yes, I am. Kimberly, what you said was so incredibly beautiful. And I love your perspective coming at this from just, like taking spirituality out of it, just embracing your creativity and the way that you experience the world. I think you help us understand things from a different perspective for sure. And I love it. It's so beautiful. For me, again, coming from a Christian perspective is where I came from. So that's what I'm going to speak to a lot. I feel that it's in some ways similar to what Kimberly also said. I feel that the things that would be like seeming like demons were my own thoughts, the things that I had been taught growing up. I had been taught that I needed to be saved, that I was a sinner, that I was unworthy, that all of these things about myself, and that there was only God to be glorified, who I understood as a man. And when I began having my awakening and experiencing different things from a different perspective, it was really difficult for me. And it was like a battle in my own mind trying to figure this out. And so I also feel like Shane and some others were saying that these were sort of like my own thought forms, not necessarily that I had personally created, but that I was sort of born into. And I still sort of struggle with some things. I don't think of God as a man in the clouds anymore, and I don't think of Satan as a man underneath the earth with a pitchfork anymore. I feel like I'm sort of stumbling through, thought forms from myself and handed down to me through generations. And I think I'm so grateful that other people are having this awakening also, because together, like in finding this unity together, there's really a lot of strength and learning and growth. And I think just it's so exciting from a perspective of science and spirituality, what we're going to be learning and creating together.
Hear, hear.
You're muted still.
All right, let's try that again. Thank you, Lauren. Wonderful answer. I appreciate that. Thank you, Majestic Madness, for the question. We very much appreciate it. You guys go ahead and throw your questions in chat like Majestic Madness. And Suso asked, Cynthia and Kimberly and panel, if guided, are we in everything or heaven, for lack of a better word? And it's that we just can't see it yet?
That's a good question. And can you hear me? Okay, good. Yay. So I love it because it gets into that non-duality kind of idea. And people talk about that. I personally prefer to think of each of us being kind of like a somewhat contained sense of identity, but it's expanding. Each of us has a greater sense of awareness and connection with others than we're fully conscious of. And so we definitely are entangled with, and you can feel it with your family, with your loved ones, with each other. Like right now, you can feel this entanglement, hopefully, with those of us who are coming together. And as we gain a sense of this greater expanded self of community, we can start getting a feeling of what it feels like to be part of everything. And then for those of us who meditate, you can gain an access to that blissed out sense that intuitive feelers get, like myself. I talked in my talk about the INFJ personality, that it's maybe just a few percent of the general population, but a massive 26% of Mandela effect experiencers are INFJs, intuitive feelers who pick up on these, seeing energy fields, seeing dark forces like I do. That does not always relate to artists who are a different kind of personality type on the Myers-Briggs, but we each have our own way of sensing or feeling or intuiting or perceiving this expanded sense of awareness that is there. So to answer the question short, are we in everything? On the level that we are consciousness, it's possible, but in order to feel that, we have to get into like a theta daydream state, or we can't expand our awareness of self. If you're an intuitive feeler like me and you meditate, then you know what I'm talking about. For those who are more sensory based and you work with your hands and what you create and your tools, it's going to feel different. So Suso, good job asking Kimberly and I both, because you see, it's perfect. With that,
So before I pass the question, I want to follow up real quick, as you mentioned one thing, the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
So explain the importance of the INFJ as it relates to the Mandela effect community, just real quick.
Huge importance, phenomenal importance. That's why I need to write the book. I realized the talks I gave were too dense, as usually happens when I give talks, but these were denser than most. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm expecting people know about this. They don't. And I've done surveys of the Mandela effect community. I completed them in 2018. I surveyed hundreds of people to find out amongst the experiencer community what were their personality types. And there's a test called the Myers-Briggs test, which was created by a mother-daughter team based on Carl Jung's work. It was subsequently followed up on by another researcher. I'll explain all this in my book. But basically, long story short, intuitive feelers make up the lion's share of the Mandela effect experiencers. And so that's kind of extraordinary, because intuitive feelers, if you look at the general population of like people around the world, if we're 1/4 of the population, that's a lot, but I don't think it's even a quarter. It's less than that. However, we represent like 2/3 of the Mandela effect experiencers. Intuitive feelers can sometimes feel that there's a conspiracy afoot. We can fall prey to dark thoughts. So we need to learn to become more positive and take a positive approach. So artists don't have that issue. So artisans and other types on the Myers-Briggs inventory are not going to fall into that kind of problem. And they can therefore lead the way fearlessly in a very positive way in general, if they experience the Mandela effect or are willing to take a look at it. And fortunately for us, we had the best possible of both worlds with Kimberly Lynn Hansen, because her art exhibit, and no one's talked about this yet. I hope you do, Dark Wolf, because something came up when you were talking with the quantum businessman. You were being interviewed by him, and something happened with that art. So maybe you could talk about that, then hand it over to Kimberly to answer that question.
So though it's not 100%, the Mandela effect community is about 2/3 INFJ, right?
Okay, it's about 60%, so it's close to 2/3. It's more than half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So moving to what you just suggested, there was a crazy thing with Miss Kimberly's art. So this is really fitting, going right into the next answer here. Chris and I were having some interviews, which I believe those will be the first ones coming out, if I'm not mistaken, because I've seen the post on mine. So, but anyway, we were having our interview, and the art is hanging on the wall beside us. So we're sitting here, we're focused, we're talking, and there's one part you'll see in the video, we get to questioning authority. And the moment, I want to say it was me, it might have been Chris, but one of us said, question authority. The moment we got it out of our mouths, the art decided it wanted to jump in the conversation, and 3 or 4 pieces jumped off the art piece, and it just kind of exploded pretty much. So we thought, wow, that's crazy. That wasn't the end of the story, though. I wish it were. That would be wild, but no, there's more. So later on, we're at the conference. We're in the middle of a talk, and I believe it was Lauren. It might not have been. Don't quote me. Somebody mentioned. Oh, Shane. It was Shane mentioned.
It was in my talk, but somebody came up and asked the question. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's what it was. Somebody mentioned authority, and no sooner than it was question authority, boom! The art piece falls again.
I think it was led by the picture of Darth Vader. He spoke out first, and then the others came down after him. And it happened twice. Come on, that's art. That's really
same topic point at that. that was so very strange. So yeah, that was one of the many wild synchronicities that happened, and you almost can't tell there where the cut is in my interview. I know, but so Kimberly, I apologize. I have stalled a lot getting this question to you.
No, go on.
Are we in heaven, for lack of a better word, and we just can't see it yet?
Directly, yes. From my perspective and from what I've experienced and worked with and played with and watched perspectives change with just applying different information into my toolbox. We'll call this a toolbox. Yes, it's all based upon what information you have inside of your toolbox, and according to that information, reality will play with exactly that. So the more you get closer to truth, the closer you get to purity within your toolbox, the less you blame your exterior reality for what you think and believe. The closer you're going to get to see exactly how peaceful everything actually is. You're going to see nature's blank canvas, which is totally heaven. To me, but I'm an artist, and I like blank canvases.
The other perspective is brilliant. It's not. It makes this not an echo chamber, and I love that. Everybody has a different take on what's going on around the question. Anybody else? Chris, would you like to take a shot at this question, or kind of pass it around at this point?
Yeah, you can definitely feel free to pass it around. It's definitely a tough question because a lot of it is what we perceive it to be. Like Kimberly said, we're creating our own canvas, and really what's within us is what we're projecting. We are creating it all. That's the way I look at it. So if you have that viewpoint that we are in heaven, then that we begin to manifest that. And beautiful, positive things just keep popping up all around us. If we believe that life sucks and it's not fair and blah, 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 well, then those type of things will begin to manifest, and we'll question, where are we? And what is this experience that we're actually having? So, yeah, so just quickly, that's what my point of view is, that it's coming from within us and what we're projecting.
Makes sense. How about you, Shane? You got any thoughts on it?
Oh, definitely. And I think this actually goes back to the previous question when we were sort of talking about everyone's perspective. And, I think it's amazing how we really do see what we expect to see. So if you're the type of person that feels like demons are after you, that's exactly what you're going to experience. And it's going to be very real from your point of view. But as you see with Kimberly, she had a completely different take on not only reality, but even the artwork falling off the wall. Somebody that's ultra religious would probably say, look, the demons got upset and threw the artwork off the wall. But that wasn't Kimberly's perspective on it. She was, talking about how it was speaking to us, and even, going back to what Cynthia said about people that see the Mandela effect and don't. I think the way Kimberly even sees the Mandela effect is just a small piece of something bigger. So it's not even that would you call yourself Mandela affected, Kimberly, or is the things you see in the Mandela effect just part of something much larger that you see? It's more of a cohesive. See, that goes right along with what Cynthia was saying. I think that's amazing.
You're muted. Jerry, come back to us.
I don't want to. I like sitting here quietly. Well, we both know that's a lie. Anyway.
Keep talking, Jerry. You're in heaven. You can say as much as you want.
I truly am in heaven with this group. I swear to goodness. It's so much fun. I couldn't get much closer to bliss without you guys. It's been great. Lauren, what's your thoughts on this question? Are we in heaven now and don't realize it?
I can't say for sure, but I sort of think of it now that we are all vibrational beings and everything is a state of vibration, and we We are also creators, and we're here right now, and we can create heaven or we can create hell. It's kind of up to us. And then from, again, a religious perspective, Jesus told us the kingdom of God is within you. And the kingdom of God to me would be heaven. At least that's what I'm trying to create. I don't always do it well, but that's what I'm going for. And after this, I'm not really sure what happens. We'll see.
So you saying we manifest our own heaven or hell into our own lives?
Those are kind of my thoughts right now. I mean, I'm open to changing my mind, but that's kind of what I think right now. Yes.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure that's the way I understood that correctly. All right, so we have another question. Our one of our sponsors at the event was a person named The Medium That Rocks, and she's joined us in chat here today, guys. We appreciate your sponsorship at the event. It's very much appreciated, and afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, Medium That Rocks asked, Joseph Campbell said, "Follow your bliss." What is your opinion of this concept now that we're learning about our new Earth and how we can create our lives? Any or all panelists. So let's start with Cynthia.
Thank you. Yes, this was something I talked about in my talk at the conference, and I went through the hero's journey. As you may have, if you know Joseph Campbell, that's great. I came across him with the PBS interviews conducted by Bill Moyers, which were fabulous. And he often used examples from various stories and myths around the world to convey the idea that we can go out into the world, go on a journey where we get a call to adventure. We find some friends that we travel with. We go across a threshold, which most of us who experience the Mandela effect know that feeling when you cross that threshold, and there's no going back for most of us. We can get frustrated when we see other people come right up to the Mandela effect. Sometimes they acknowledge like something's going on, but then they close their eyes, go back to their daily lives. Very frustrating. So for those of us who love this Mandela effect, what it means, or for anybody really, when you follow your bliss, I think that's the key to finding out how good it can get, because it means that you're activating this quality within you of who you really are and how you engage with others. So some people, maybe following their bliss is not anything to do with the Mandela effect. That's okay. I don't think they're non-player entities or whatever people call them. It can be easy to say like they're asleep, they're not awake, they're whatever, but they're our family members. They're our friends, they're our neighbors. So if they're following their bliss too, that's good. So I think it's good to be very open-minded about how we all follow our bliss. And as we learn about this new Earth, I think that's a chief frustration for many of us, wanting to wake people up, especially if you feel like you're here to do that. But it's important to work with who shows up and what you've got. Know that you're in the right place at the right time. Trust that process. I love the way Kimberly Lynn Hansen embodies that message. And, we can really have a lot of joy. But I think we all embodied that message at this conference, each and every one of us, just the way the synchronicities were happening. And we could feel that we're in that bliss. It's just like life is easy. It is for me. It started before the conference. In the chat, Suso was saying a couple days before, he felt the energy. I felt it a couple of weeks before, and I still feel it a couple of weeks after. I hope it doesn't go away. I love it.
That's another question that we got, and I might follow that up at the end, is the after effects of the conference. But we'll follow that question up here momentarily. Moving along to Chris. Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. What is your opinion now that we're learning that our new Earth is being created by us?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Follow your bliss. I would sometimes relate to that as being stubbornly optimistic, or I prefer to now say relentless optimism. But yeah, following your bliss, I think, is really the key to progress and to continue on your way through this ascension process, where we're all these timelines are shifting, and we don't want to go down timelines. We all want to go up timelines, right? That's really what the goal is. So I definitely agree with Joseph Campbell when he said that, for sure. On another note, something funny, I'm just going to talk about the artwork again real quick, but I think we should create a special video of just the artwork and like the time that it fell off and creating it, whatever video we have of that. I think people would find that really interesting because it did really speak to us. So yes, follow your bliss.
I'm game. Vote.
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, I'm just the art mother, so whatever they want to do, I will support them in their decisions.
Can you actually say what your feelings were like when the art was speaking to us? Like how you interpreted that as being the art mother?
Well, right. Well, that's what they do. And I've been working with them since 2012 when I started making them. And I obviously was creating regular art. I didn't know that it could, I didn't know that there was some sort of level that art wanted to surpass and speak through. And I had to learn, I've learned all of this that I'm expressing to you now. And in the conference, I've learned all of this through the art. So the art would taught me about all of the things that I speak about now. And in fact, it's told me things that I've had to back research. And I found answers in quantum physics, and that's where my love for quantum physics began almost 8 years ago, was that it allowed me a vocabulary to communicate to others what the art had already implanted in my knowingness, just from witnessing how it does speak. So, I mean, up until the conference, I had not verbalized what the capabilities of the art or how they are literally alive. And it took being in that conference with all of you and you guys, you recognizing it first. That moment to me was so touching. I broke down in the back of the room. The fact that you guys saw and listened to it, and that was the first time in my life that it wasn't. I didn't have to. Not that I'd ever really said anything unless somebody opened up communication, but you guys saw it, and I didn't have to. I didn't have to be fearful that there would be some misunderstanding. All the levels were there and you guys recognized it, and it was so touching to me that I could finally let go. That I knew in that moment I didn't have to protect them anymore, that they were really alive and there were people that wanted to hear them in their full capacity.
That we could understand the interpretation thereof.
So thank you so much. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, and Kimberly, I feel you're going to continue to create some amazing artwork that speaks to the people that view it. Maybe some things you haven't even imagined yet, but I just have a pretty sure feeling about that. And I know even for myself, like behind me, I have a picture of Mona Lisa. So one of the things that I do is I always kind of look at her because, people have been noting the different changes of Mona Lisa. One of the recent things is that she used to have her hands clasped. So we'll talk about a Mandela effect, right? She used to have her hands clasped on her lap, and now she's like obviously resting one of her arm in a chair, and her hair is different. She's smiling more. We now know who her identity is, etc. But yeah, when art can change and talk to you and express itself, and you can learn from it, that's amazing. So. Like I went to another level with just your artwork there, and wherever that piece is,
Thank you, Chris.
It's got to wind up someplace special, a museum or something, for people to really enjoy that. It's historical.
Thank you, Chris.
Even if it doesn't, like right now, at the end of all said and done, 20 years down the road, I would love to have that hanging somewhere around a museum or one of our houses or something. Like I want that to stay in the community somehow. It's got a special meaning to it,
Well, I think it's for all of humanity, and that's my absolute honesty, is that this is a moment, and it's huge for all of humanity, and that piece wanted to be documented. And that's what it told me. I didn't know how or what the fuck it was gonna do. That's I'm like, well, because it told me as it was making itself, and I didn't know how it was going to speak to everybody to get to the place that it wanted to go. So when it was moving off of the walls, that was not surprising to me. And it was so clear, and there's so many, I'm not sure, I don't want to give you guys all of the answers, but I would look at which pieces moved at which times and what was being said, because all of the answers of every question you've asked in regards to the Mandela effect can be answered in just the movements of the artwork. So look there.
All right. Follow the art. Follow the clues.
Follow the bliss.
Follow the bliss. Shane, you couldn't have jumped in at a better time, my friend. You're up next.
Yeah, I think, our ideas of what that bliss might be will change over time as we have this higher and higher perspective. For me now, it's just being there for other people, helping other people, bringing people together. And the bliss I get from that is so joyful. I mean, it's just, I'm ecstatic most of the time. And even when I feel down, I just focus on that. And just the purpose I feel within that is so satisfying, more than money or fame or fortune or anything that you can, that maybe you typically think of on sort of a base level. So following my bliss, and once you're following your bliss, I also find that you can trust your team, your higher team more too, because you're working for the higher team. You're working on purpose, and not my will, but thy will be done sort of mentality in Christian terms. And so following your bliss is just that, I think.
Appreciate that, bud. And one more person. Lauren, what's your opinion on follow your bliss as far as creating and manifesting our life?
Yeah, absolutely. Following your bliss is a very important aspect of creating the manifestations that you want in your life. At the same time, though, I'm still learning how to balance following that bliss with, sometimes doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do. Not everything is always blissful, and you still have to kind of do it. There are some difficult aspects of life that we all encounter that we have to give our attention to at times also. So for me, I'm still learning that balance. But yes, overall, following your bliss is a great idea.
I fully agree. Anytime you can be happy, it's a good idea, in my opinion. And it's in those, I can say, especially from being at the conference and seeing so many synchronicities appear just right in front of me that I could not explain. You get that much positive energy together, you're going to have a lot of positive synchronistic manifestation. And this whole group, it can attest, I'm sure, to that statement that I just made. Kimberly, real quick before we move on to the next question, follow your bliss as relation to making life.
Well, clearly, that's one of my favorite feelings is bliss. And there's a difference between bliss and happiness. Like happiness has that spicy quality to it. And bliss to me is my favorite one. Happiness, I'll take it any time of the week. Surprise, that bliss has that really peaceful, it's that quality that a lot of us don't know yet. And I really, really challenge people to find what bliss feels like, because it's that quality that Cynthia is talking about when she says groundedness. So it's that bliss is a very, very, very high level happiness, but it's very, very grounded. And so when you can find bliss, you're floating and things magically just kind of move in and out in front of you, and it's like euphoric. And that's so if we're going to follow our bliss, yes, that's the way. First step is know bliss. Know it, because I didn't know it for years, and then I started finding little tasters of it around in my life. I'm like, that's what bliss is. It's like when you wake up from the most beautiful nap in the middle of the afternoon and the sun is beaming on you, and that's bliss. And life can be those moments the whole time, where life is alive in front of you, and you just get to witness how stunningly organized everything comes together without your effort.
Brilliantly put. Absolutely brilliant. Medium that rocks. Thank you for the question. We much appreciate it. And thank you for
Kim.
And thank you for being this year's sponsor at the 2019 West Coast Mandela Effect Conference. It is much, much, much appreciated. I hope everybody's enjoying this show so far. Once again, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat here, like Kim did and like Mr. Moneybag73 did. For the panel, how do each of you describe unity consciousness? Cynthia.
Okay, well, I touched on duality, non-duality. Sometimes unity consciousness comes up with that idea. Hearing a lot of static. Are we okay? Okay. So, yeah, for me, unity consciousness has to do with being in that state of grace, feeling this extraordinary openness of love, bliss that Kimberly's talking about, and also a sense of groundedness with this happiness. So unity consciousness, to me, it transcends the individual issues that I might be experiencing. And now I don't hear anything. Hope am I muted?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. This is weird. Sounds are changing. Okay, so it's hard to focus. Yeah, so the unity consciousness for me it's a feeling for me personally of being in divine source presence of ultimate goodness, divine orchestration, whatever you want to call that. And I don't think it really cares what we call it. I think a lot of humanity's hubris and pride gets involved with things like spirituality, even with science. I work with scientists, and you would think they'd all get along together. That's not the case. Usually there's a lot of posturing, a lot of ego, unfortunately. But ideally, when humans can transcend those levels of egoic orchestration to get to that place that Kimberly's talking about, that Chris is talking about, that Shane and Lauren, and even you, Jerry, all of us are talking about, is we know what it feels like. We know what it feels like when we can put our ego aside. I think actually, Dark Wolf, you mentioned that what made this conference come together effortlessly was the ability of each of us involved to not become egoic and pushing our what we think is right, what we think is best agenda on others. At every point, we were in service to the idea of what we're doing collectively. And that very beingness of embodying that, to me, is what unity consciousness feels like. And so it feels divine. And when we're living it, things like that conference come together, and we're still going strong. I've never worked with a team of people like this in all my years in business. I've never seen anything like it before. And I would say the biggest factor that sets us apart is exactly that. The ability to, as Moneybags is asking, how do we describe unity consciousness? I think we can live it by recognizing that even though I have an ego, I want things to happen the way I think they maybe should or whatever. But then we learn, like, wait a minute, who am I to say how things should be? That's what Kimberly has, I think she mentioned Asuso. That's the S word. Love it. Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to get caught up in that. And it's better for us all when we recognize unity consciousness is nature. It's the cosmos. We're part of it. We don't have to work so hard. We don't have to be fearful and afraid that we're not going to get something that we think we deserve. We can trust in that process. And for that, I love it. So I love it. I love that we're living it.
I got to second that what you just said. I've said it 100 times and I'll say it 1,000 more. I've never worked with a team like this. There has been, like I told you at the conference, and you just repeated now, there's been no ego. Nobody at any time said, no, I'm right, we'll do it my way, or I think this, or it needs to be. There was none of that. Every day was, hey, how about this? Oh, how can I make that better? Well, how can I make that even better? And it was just, we all built off each other. We all bounced and worked off each other. And it's been amazing. And we're still clearly going strong. It's absolutely amazing. So I second what you said. This team is just, I can't get over how incredible it's been to work with each and every one of you guys. But before I get all mushy gushy, Chris Anatra, for the panel, how do you describe unity consciousness?
Well, first I want to say, hey, Moneybag 73. Moneybag 73 was like right there at the beginning, bringing out these Mandela effects. A while ago, I had like listened to some of this stuff, then I got distracted, and a couple of years later went back to it. So I just want to say that I really, really appreciate the body of work that you've been putting together and how you come at things too. It's just from a very open point of view. You let the people vote. Hey, is this a Mandela effect for you or not? Because some things are, some things aren't. It just depends on where we came from, what our consciousness, what our memory remembers. So to answer your question about unity consciousness, I would describe it as the opposite of duality, which is something that I've experienced for most of my life, like me against the world. I have to keep fighting against the world. It's just me, and I have to protect my family and all that. But as you progress, and the Mandela effect is great for this, as you progress down a level of spirituality, you discover something called the law of one, which ultimately what this all boils down to. We're all part of the same thing. We all came from the same place, and we're having all these different experiences, and we are in the process of remembering that again. We're in the process of remembering that duality, and what our ego dictates is not what the truth of reality is. So, and it brings a whole new like love and appreciation for everyone and everything, even sometimes the things that are difficult to love. You have to begin to understand that, wow, that's part of me too, and I need to love that part as well. So thank you for your question, and I think that's where a lot of this is all going, towards that unity consciousness. And keep up the good work.
I second that. He has been a pillar in this community as far as the voting video. I think, as like the guy on the radio the other day said in the interview he did, very clever way to go about doing that. And I'll be honest, you've got the best evidence pile I've ever seen, the cleanest evidence pile I've ever. I work off your evidence pile a lot. I guess you've helped me a lot being a researcher in the community. So, Moneybags, thanks for all the work you do on that. And Shane, unity consciousness, what is it to you?
Well, yeah, I'd like to thank Moneybags too. He's got the one channel that if someone's sort of new to it, I'm like, just go there, look through the list, see if you find something that you're super familiar with. I mean, it's an excellent resource. So thank you, Moneybags, for all you do. It's tremendous. I've actually felt comfortable moving on to other things because you've got this covered. You know what I mean? So thank you for what you do. I think unity consciousness is really what my channel is built on, the whole unbiased and on the fence concept, that where love is kept primary and everything else is sort of secondary worldviews and things like that. So I think we're moving into, in scientific terms, I think you would think of it like entropy. We're moving away from entropy and things are being more orderly. In Christian terms, I think we're talking about the return of Christ consciousness, that is, where we all are of one accord, I think is the way the Bible refers to it. So yeah, it's just moving into more order. It's moving into more peace, more love. And as we do that, I believe our vibration as a whole, including the planet itself, is going to raise, and we're going to move into something, bringing heaven on earth, to answer the last question as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer, Shane. And Kimberly, the unity consciousness, what does that phrase mean to you? You're muted.
Was that fun? Any words I would have used to describe it, everybody has said already. I think that the limited nature of the English language in trying to even put words to what the label of unity consciousness actually encompasses, it's not going to do it. What I can recommend to everyone that's watching, if you want to see what it is, have a taste of it, what it feels like, how it works, watch the documentary of our presentations and watch just observe, and it's all there. It's right there. And how everything just tied in together seamlessly. It's embodied as we have it, as good as we have it right now. That unity consciousness expresses itself within the conference as a whole. So thanks to Chris for documenting that, because watching it over and over and over again, you're going to witness really, really stunning attributes of unity consciousness in action. Art is in the action there.
Thank you, Kim. And last but not least, Lauren, unity consciousness. What does that mean to you?
Hey, money bags. Thanks so much for this great question. I think it's an important question for all of us to really consider with this Mandela effect awakening experience that we're all having. And like Kimberly said, I think that our documentary is going to be really helpful in kind of like bringing this together for us to continue to explore. That was actually the title of my presentation, incorporated unity consciousness and what this means. It took me 90 minutes to sort of explain my perspective on that, but to summarize it here, for the sake of quickly analyzing this question, I would say that yes, bringing us all into one accord, in Christian terms, kind of like the body of Christ, we are all one. Not just laterally, we are one with each other and with this world, but sort of like vertically, if you want to think of it vertically, being one with God also, and one with all that is. And then for me, from just a purely physical, scientific perspective, I also think of unity consciousness with hemispheres of my brain. The right hemisphere of my brain, I want to follow my bliss, but then I want to unify that with the left hemisphere of my brain with discipline and practicality as well. So for me, that's what, and there's much more to it, but those are some of my ideas about unity consciousness.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Moneybags, for that amazing question. Keep up the amazing work you do, bud. You are definitely an asset to this community, and we very much appreciate it. There was another question on here I seen, just 1 second, and it goes back to something that we touched on a moment ago, or pretty much the beginning of the show. I think the debate is about to open up, guys. Where's this question at? Here it is. Suso asks, if everything is already here and created and we shift into it, do we also have direct contact with God and to follow it up? Or what is it that we have a connection to? Cynthia.
Okay, that's a good question. Well, personally, I feel like I do have a direct contact with that unity consciousness, which you could call God, ultimate goodness, cosmos, nature, whatever. Physicists sometimes call it the census taker. I don't think it really cares what we call it. I'm pretty sure of that. I mean, some people say like, oh, yes, it does. But no, I think it's playful, has a good sense of humor. It's very loving. And I think that when like the indigenous wisdom would say, that there is original thought. There's a book by Glenn Aparicio Perry. He used to organize conferences I would go to, which were initiated by one of the physicists, David Bohm, who came up with the whole idea of the holographic universe. that whole Bohmian concept that there's the, you can think of it like paint being spun around and mixed into a can. Like if you swirl it up and make a mess of it, there's an implicate order and there's an explicate order in this sort of viewpoint of this holographically connected universe. David Bohm had these conferences with indigenous elders, and they would dialogue. So each person would talk for, it could be 90 minutes. You could literally leave the room, get more than a cup of coffee. You could have a meal, come back, that same person is talking, but it was extraordinary. So when these Language of Spirit conferences were happening with scientists, indigenous elders, and I would attend them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you look at indigenous thought, there is such a thing as original thinking. The indigenous wisdom, and that's the perennial wisdom also around the world, shows us that every idea already exists. Everything is already there. So yes, can we shift into it? Absolutely. Do we have direct contact with God, with oneness, with Source? Yes. So I feel like that really is true. And for anybody who's wondering, how do I do that? I'm going to proceed because it looks like Dark Wolf left the room slightly. I would pass it, but I can't do that.
He said to carry the question around. He'll be right back.
Thank you. Okay. So let's do that. We can carry the question around. Who wants, I guess, Chris, you want to pick it up? Are you there?
Yeah. So if I were to pick up that question, do we have direct contact with God? I'm going to, you have to answer that as a yes. How do you do that? I know that for myself, a lot of it is the power of prayer. A lot of people maybe forget that power that they have, even speaking an out loud statement. One of the things I started practicing myself is before I go to bed and when I wake up, I have I address the higher power, Source, God, however you want to say it, my angels that are with me, my guides and my guardians. And I've come to realize you're never alone. You could go through this life thinking that you're alone, but I believe you're always being observed, and you can definitely have that contact. And I've also been finding that unless you ask for something, then it's usually not provided. It's like one of the secrets of the universe. So you might think in your head, boy, I really would like this to happen, or I really would like my life to go this way, or I would like this to manifest. I find too, it has even more power when you say it out loud. And you don't just say it once, it's something you might say repeatedly over the course of days, etc. And you can have contact, and you could feel that come back as manifestations in different ways, whatever it is that you're asking for. So I'm gonna answer that question is yes, direct contact with God, absolutely.
Yep, you're muted.
Jerry.
Where? I ain't seen it. All right. Appreciate that, Chris, very, very much. Sorry I had to step away just momentarily, so I appreciate you sending it on around. Shane, is everything already here and created and we shift into it? Do we have direct contact with God, or what are we connected to?
I think, and I think I can bring in the Bible, the Mandela effect with all of this, So, we think about Jesus, and one of the Mandela effects in the Bible was the Lord's Prayer. And he says, don't pray like the hypocrites do, pray like this. And this is sort of what helped me get out of religion, because a lot of religion says, come to us and we'll go to God for you. When Jesus himself says, no, you speak, you pray, you give your petitions directly to the Father with thanksgiving. And I think the Lord's Prayer is a good example of that. And then to bring in a Mandela effect with that would be the mamas and the papas stepped into a church and pretend to pray instead of began to pray. I think a lot of times we're just maybe repeating a prayer without putting our heart and intentions into it. So we're only pretending to pray. So like I said in my talk, I like to look for the little nugget of truth within each Mandela effect change. And that would be the nugget of truth within that. That, if you're just sort of repeating, if you're saying, now I lay me down to sleep, and it's just the recorded thing you're just repeating out and you're not really putting your heart into it, you're only pretending to pray. But when you ask from the heart, to be provided for, to be guided, for the doors that need to be open, and the doors that don't need to be open, to be closed, and you're really asking from the heart because you want to be led in the right direction. You want to do the right thing. You're operating from the heart. This is our direct access to God, or whatever you feel comfortable with calling it.
Great answer, Shane. I appreciate that. I'll be honest, I ain't answered any of these questions because you guys' answers are just, there's nothing left to say. Kimberly Lynn Hansen, is everything already here? Do we shift into it? Are we connected with God? What's the deal?
From my perspective, with the information that I was given, yes, everything is already created. It's already here. It falls really, really well with the multi-worlds theory in physics. And so to align into it, so actually the design of the multi-world theory is what God is actually the design. And how do we align ourselves within that design is through the correct, I don't want to say there is an incorrect way of praying, but there is a really, really holistic way to pray in which you embody that abundance and you align with a specific outcome that already exists. And so it's what I call the future you that is already experiencing the desired outcome. And you can communicate with that future you, and then you magnetically draw yourself into that point within the time-space coordinates. You want more?
No, I just got to figure out where the mouse was.
Okay.
I lost my pointer. I got two screens here, so it was way over the other side on another screen. Sorry about that. So,
I should be more comfortable with, I would like to be more comfortable with the open space. That could have been nice. I'll do that next time.
Always room to improve, right? So, Lauren, you have a very strong Christian background, as we all know. Is everything created? Do we shift into it? Do we direct contact with God? No God? Tell us about it.
I have a very strong Christian background, but I so much agree with what everybody here is saying. I think it's so amazing getting to collaborate and share all of these different perspectives. Going back to my Christian background, Jesus said, "My Father's house has many rooms." I think he was talking about quantum physics. There are many worlds. Everything that you could possibly imagine is already in existence. God is all that is. Source is all that is. There's more than you can even imagine that is available. And do we have direct contact with God? Well, yes. Again, when this is a whole new era and time of awakening, but I'm going to go back and restate again what Jesus said, just for Christians who are sort of wrapping their minds around some of these new concepts that might be new to some people. But Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all of your soul." This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second commandment is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. He was saying that we are all God. So yes, we do have direct contact with God. And then sort of like what Kimberly was saying, I agree. Whether you call it manifesting or whether you call it contacting a different version of yourself and being drawn magnetically to it, I think that that's possible. And I'm learning how to get a little bit better at it right now at this time. And it's exciting.
Mind blown. Oh my God. I've never thought about the multiple houses being multiple realities all in of itself. That's kabloom.
Bling, bling.
For real, that just, wow. I never would have thought about that concept if she had never mentioned it. Thank you, Suso, for the amazing question. We got time for maybe one more, and then this is going to probably be it because I have to get to work, sadly. I would love to do this for another couple hours. I tell you what, guys, down in the comments section, let us know if you want to see another one. Maybe we can talk them into coming back one more time if we're lucky. No promises. Maybe we can talk them into it. One more question from the chat. Alone One asked, What do you think is the cause for us to experience the effect when so many others do not? Cynthia.
Yes, I touched on this a little bit with the Myers-Briggs. So I've been looking closely at this question. Who are the experiencers? Who are we as a community? Obviously, you can't put us all in a box and say that we all fit an exact profile, but I believe there's something going on with these intuitive feelers for sure, because we're a huge part of this whole process. We're the front runners that are very sensitive. We're the healers, the light workers, the counselors. I'm an INFJ personality. Supposedly that's super, super rare. However, in our community, it's like the number one group. So that tells you something. You know, they say Jesus Christ would have been an INFJ. Maybe so. So I think there's a transformation happening, and some of the people who are experiencing the Mandela effect, like Jesus Christ, had a responsibility to serve. And I think what's causing it to come up now is to transform our consciousness, recognize we are steering spaceship Earth. I just answered in the chat a question that came up about why do so many Mandela effect experiencers have car problems. I covered that in my book, Reality Shifts. It's I would recommend looking at life like a dream. Look at the symbols. When things happen in real life, imagine it's just like it's talking to you. It's just like it's Kimberly's art on the wall. It is alive. It's telling you something. What is it saying? And when you start looking at that, when you live that way, then you'll find you get answers. And so that's what I think we're doing. I think we're showing the way. We're the teachers. That's another thing that intuitive feelers do. We teach, we counsel, we heal, we communicate. A lot of the other affected, even if you're an artist, you'll be doing that. Whatever you are. The guardians represent the majority of our population. Those are the people that you might think are non-player whatevers, but they're not non-players. They're our fathers, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors. They believe in tradition. It's harder for them to see the Mandela effect. That's okay. That's fine. They'll come along once it becomes traditional. Thanks to those of us who are scientists and architects and explorers and artisans, then they're going to help lead that charge. We're going to have a unified community. We're building it now. So we're here. We're showing up. Hooray.
I got to say, somebody mentioned in chat earlier, I believe it was, what's his name? I can't remember his name. But anyway, they mentioned that a lot of the older community is coming back together. Like there was a Discord group that I used to hang out in. I've seen some of them that popped into the chat here. Since the conference, since we put that together, I've seen a lot of the older people come back into the community that I ain't seen in quite a while. So I think that's really neat that we're starting to draw them back together and draw everyone back together. Bit of venom is who said that. Thank you. Yeah, we're starting to draw everyone back together and really like we've enacted something here that's going to go way beyond. Chris, why is it that some people see the effect and others do not?
I don't know. No, here's my theory. First of all, there's a lot of people that haven't even heard of the Mandela effect. Because sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll be like, "Hey, how you doing, Chris?" And I'm like, "I'm doing pretty good, except this Mandela effect thing drives me a little crazy sometimes." And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, me too." And I'm like, "You've heard of the Mandela effect?" And they're like, "No, actually, I don't know what you're talking about." So I'll go on to explain it to them and I'll say, like, "Well, you've heard of a product, or if you ever heard of a product called Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing?" And they'd be like, "Of course I have." And I'm like, "Well, maybe it's never existed, and that's an example of a Mandela effect." So I can segue into it that way sometimes if I feel the person's ready to hear it. But there's so many people that don't even know what it is. But I think that we're on the brink, especially with this movie coming out in December, that there's going to be more and more people talking about this Mandela effect because they're going to be exposed to the Berenstain Bears and all these other things that I understand the movie talks about. So I believe that we, the ones that are like experiencing it and it's changed our life, we're kind of part of a first wave, although the wave has been picking up for a while. You know, Cynthia's been talking about this for a while. I'm really pretty much new at it myself. But it's like a wave that's beginning to build up power and beginning to crest. And, you know, people need to like understand what's going on. They need to feel relaxed. They need to feel, you know, they need to feel basically have an understanding and a calmness and a positiveness about all of this. So I believe that we're part of like this first wave of people that are there to understand it, to be able to explain it. And then that leads to other things. Because if you can grasp the Mandela effect, you know, otherwise, I don't know if quantum physics would be as much of an interest to people. At least to me, it's gotten even more of my attention because of the Mandela effect. So I believe that the Mandela effect is really kind of stage one. Stage one is like, wow, this is not how I remember things to be. What else is like, what does this mean? Let's go to the next level. And that's one of the things that I tried to start to do with some of the videos that I'm putting together. I'm trying to like read into the cause, like, are they random or do they possibly have a meaning? And I'm going to go back to Kimberly's presentation too. When you guys, when everyone in the audience sees it, really brilliant in understanding like reasons for Mandela effects. And they are speaking to us. And yeah, I believe that there's going to be a lot more, like it's going to really help us progress. And if things ever do happen in the future, let's say there is finally disclosure about ETs, you know, et cetera, government programs that we thought could never be real, but actually are real. The Mandela effect is kind of like a first stage so that we can kind of wrap our heads around things and it wouldn't be as drastic than all of a sudden like, oh, here's our star family, you know, hello everyone, how do we do commerce with you now? Or whatever the situation is. So yes, so I believe that we're here, and as more people awaken, we're here to actually help them out and continue to help them with the process.
So I also want to follow this up with another question, tack on to invve, because he goes right with it. And I don't remember what it was, so we're going to move on. I totally just drew a blank. Like I had a perfect question to follow up with. As I was talking, it slipped on out the yeah. Anyway, Shane.
It'll come back.
Why are some people able to see the effect and others are not?
I truly believe, like, actually Moneybag said this in his interview on the Art Bell Archive show, which he has that video. He just posted it like, I don't know, a day or two ago on his channel. But I totally agree with what he was saying, that I believe there's something for everyone to see. I just think people aren't quite ready yet. And people, when they are ready, we shouldn't be too pushy about it. I know the people in my own personal life that, you know, I was sort of pushy about it at first because I was freaking out, like, you got to see this, you know, and they would see things and then, you know, they get the download and I'm like, no, you got to, you know, protect your memories. And I felt sort of stressed out about it, but I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like, you know, people wake up, if that's a term you want to use it, people begin to see the Mandela effect when they are ready to. Some people might wake up with something completely different, like a near-death experience or something. I believe the Mandela effect is really only one tool of very many tools to help awaken humanity. So I think there's something for everyone. It's been my experience, even with the people who say they don't see it. You know, I've seen them see things and then change their mind about it. So I think everybody can see it if they're ready to see it. I think it just comes down to whether they're ready or not on their personal journey.
You just answered what my next question was because I remembered it now. And whether everyone is affected or a small group. And what we'll do is I'll throw that around at the very, very end. We'll just get a yes or no real quick, you know. Kim, why do some people see and experience the Mandela effect and others do not? What's going on here?
From I can only speak from my own experience. I can honestly say that I don't experience the Mandela effect in my everyday life. I think there's something within the structure of my mind that is just so allowing and so trusting of the process, because I am so familiar with it, that if something is different than I remember it, I know it's for the best. And it's like, well, that's just, you know, if I walk into my apartment and a table has moved. Not that that's happened, but if it did, I would be like, oh, cool, neato, gang, moving along, right? And now that I have been asked to work within the community on the Mandela effect with the presentation that I did, clearly there was opportunity for people to ask me what I've been working on, and so the Mandela effect would come up. Every single time, 100% of the time, when I was able to explain, I was able to explain to them what the Mandela effect was, and able to bring up the examples that I found within the current list of the Mandela effects that did resonate with me, the Berenstain Bears, the few that I used within the artwork. Every single person, when I brought that collection up to them, saw it. There wasn't one person that didn't understand or didn't fully communicate with at least one of those few examples that I did find. Even my grandmother was like, Berenstain Bears? No way. I read those books to you as children. Absolutely not. It was Berenstain. Right? And then from that curiosity is like, well, how is that possible? Who changed? Well, the first question is always like, well, who changed it? And because I do have that background in physics, I'm able to communicate multiple timelines. And even my grandmother at breakfast this morning, within 20 minutes, was able to grasp multiple timelines, and her heart was aflutter. And this is so fascinating. Who knew at 80 years old, I would be able to learn something new, And it was my grandfather's birthday last night, and he was like, well, it's true. Life does start at 80. So I believe that, yeah. From my experience, 100% of the people, if they didn't know about it before, once they're introduced to it in a really fun, loving manner, it's super easy to allow into a new understanding of what is possible and what we're moving towards. That evolution is a thing. Nature doesn't stop evolving.
All right, good answer. And okay, yeah, my mic's on. Good. All right. Good answer. I appreciate that, Kimberly. And Lauren, why is it that some people experience the Mandela effect and others just absolutely do not?
So, as I had my spiritual awakening, I began to think in terms of all of the universe is inside of me, and all of the universe is inside of you. Therefore, we are parallel universes. And we connect to each other, to the universe within each of us through our brains, through our mirror neurons, which is empathy, our ability to have compassion and empathy and look at things from one another's perspectives. That is what I felt initially was happening, was that it was a function of empathy or mirror neurons. Why some people don't see it, I think personally that everybody does, but it might not be their time to really consider it deeply, on one hand. On another hand, our collective whole is doing something really beautiful here. And I think every single one of us, even those who don't see it or aren't talking about it, recognizing it right now, they're still playing an important role in this collective experience that we're having. But what I will say is those of us who are seeing the Mandela effect now and talking about it now, another thing that I notice of all of these people is just a tremendous amount of bravery. Again, I think everybody is going to awaken to this eventually, but I feel like we are sort of like the forerunners of this. We're all extremely brave, able to look at things from different perspectives, and it's scary. It's like human nature. It's scary to see something that is totally new or foreign to you. And the Mandela effect has been a very foreign concept to most of us. And then, sort of like what Kimberly was saying, I have a similar experience when I tell people about the Mandela effect. Most people understand what I'm saying and they see it too, but that wasn't always the case, especially at the beginning. And I think that was because at the beginning, I was freaking out and telling people about the Mandela effect, and why would they want to tap into that? Because I was in a state of terror. Why would they want to come into my hell or my terror that I was creating? But when I have a sense of this is divine, this is miraculous, and I have had extremely miraculous experiences with the Mandela effect. And when I can tell my friends, these are the miracles that have happened in my life, and I'm experiencing this thing called the Mandela effect, and I think that's how God does miracles, because God lives in us, and isn't this cool? They get really excited and they see it also. So that was a pretty long answer, but I think everybody will see it. And if you're wanting to tell your friends about the Mandela effect, I think if you're able to say it in a way that's not scary, that's upbeat and optimistic, then your friends and family kind of have an easier time understanding and coming into your worldview.
That gave me chills. That was extremely powerful, Lauren.
Aw.
Thanks, Shane.
I agree. Very powerful. And, you know, that is one aspect of the effect that, as a researcher and a theorist, I can't wrap my head around is why is it that some of us see it and there's others that staunchly just, you're crazy, there's no way, that they don't remember anything like I do. I've went down a couple ideas with that, but that's one part of the effect that really just makes me rip my hair out.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
I think the answer goes back to what Shane was saying about if you ask the great design for something, it will give it to you. So those of you who are experiencing it heavily, you've asked to experience it heavily. You want to know more about it, and therefore it's coming into your reality in full throttle. You've turned it up to 15. You're going to see it at 15.
I would say that's valid because Guy Fawkes talks about how sometimes he'll ask God to show him and he'll start seeing effects all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there might be something to that. So closing out, guys, we do have a Discord now. Everybody who, hopefully all the speakers will go over there and join. I know Cynthia Sue's in there already. Hopefully everybody go ahead and go over there after the show. I won't be there. I've got to go to work, sadly. But I'm sure there will be a large multitude of people over there waiting to welcome you. I'm so glad everybody has joined us in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't do a chat shout out. We really ain't got enough time. I do want to do one more round with one more question before we close out. And the question is, final thoughts, and do you believe that everyone is affected in the entire world and don't know it? Or there's just this small special group of us that are affected and able to see this, and that's all that will be. Plus final thoughts. Cynthia.
Yes. Well, if you read my book, Quantum Jumps, then you know that I already believe we're all affected. In fact, I believe that's how nature works. I believe that there's no way we could exist as we are. We wouldn't have trees. We wouldn't have oxygen. We wouldn't have photosynthesis. We wouldn't have anything. And we've got proof that's come out. I interview scientists on my show, Living the Quantum Dream, such as I talked with John Joe McFadden, who wrote Quantum Biology. He's starting that brand new field of quantum biology. And he wrote the book Life on the Edge. But long story short, absolutely, we're all affected. We just have no idea. What's happening is that gets me so happy and excited. This chat community is great. I love the chat conversation. Thanks, guys, everybody. So glad to see Once Upon a Timeline, Moneybags, Suso, everybody's there, JW, more than I can name. But it's thanks to all of the community coming together now. We're able to bring a topic that would otherwise be relegated to very dusty, dry scientific journals. And we're making it live. We're making it personal. We're saying, you know what? This is happening everywhere. I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful to those that have the courage to come out and talk about this, because together we are very, very capable of bringing a paradigm shift into being. And I think we'll see it in our lifetime.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Thank you. Yeah.
You're muted.
Did I mute myself?
No.
No, I did.
No, Jerry.
See, in the conference, I had the guy on the camera controlling my mic. I didn't have to worry about muting. Thank you so very much, Cynthia, for both being a part of this team and a part of this panel. It is very, very sincerely appreciated. At the very beginning, guys, I first threw this idea out. I got Cynthia on board. She said, "Where are you at as far as planning goes?" I said, "Look, I've never even been to a conference a day in my life. I've never planned one. You're the first person I've got. I really appreciate you. You're on board for this. That's where we're at." She jumped in hands and feet and just grabbed the reins, and I mean, she ran with it and got this amazing team pulled together. So just as much thanks to Cynthia and Chris and Shane and Kimberly and Lauren. Thank you guys so much. It's such an honor working with you guys. Now that I've got all mushy once again, Chris, final thoughts. And is everyone affected, or is it just a special group of us?
Final thoughts, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to get stranger. That's the way I definitely sincerely feel. Because, you know, Berenstain Bears, beavers now have orange teeth, whatever it is, like, people are like, okay, that's interesting, and I don't understand it, but I think it's going to be like more and more and more and more that goes on. So that, and I think everyone that's going to, like, I don't know if everyone on the planet will be affected, but it's definitely going to be a tipping point. There's definitely going to be a tipping point where it's that 199 monkey concept where enough people begin to awaken and understand more about reality. It's going to flip the consciousness of the planet. So that's definitely how I see things. And I know I'll speak for myself. Like I'm very excited to, and I'm very passionate about this. Like the more I've learned about these things, the more I want to continue and keep driving to learn more and more and more and just like progress to another level. And I think that's what we all are here. We all want to just keep going with this and see where it leads to. And it's got to lead to something really amazing. It will.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Anatra. Shane Robinson, tell us, final thoughts, and is everyone affected or just some of us?
I definitely think everyone's affected, or it's available for anyone who's willing to look at it. But I also think, you know, if someone's already on their journey, it can be very disruptive. I mean, everybody in this community knows how much it's sort of shaking up your life. So I think if it can be disruptive, you're already on your path doing what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe you're blinded to it or something for a while, just so you aren't sort of, you know, taken off the path that you're on. So I think there's a lot of moving parts here, but yeah, I think it's available to everybody. And I think, you know, we all feel this breath of fresh air as we join together here and feel that relief that you get, you know, not only the love, but there's a relief that you almost feel that, you know, that, oh, I'm not alone in this. And there's other people that are experiencing this. But yeah, I believe everyone who looks at it hard enough would see it happening.
I got to be honest, I'm with the belief that everyone is affected. Very few of them that want to admit it or even take the time to look into it. But I believe there's one effect that's going to grab everybody. It might not always be the same one, but I believe there's one for every single person. If not, wait a little while. You'll get it. We ain't got there yet. Kim, final thoughts. Everyone, small group, and final thoughts all in general.
Everyone. What the Mandela effect is, from my studying, the brief amount of time that I studied it with you guys, it's just showing us part of a larger design. It's proof and evidence of how reality, the actual makeup of reality. And so if you are experiencing reality, any reality, you're part of that design. We're all part of it. And it's up to you, specifically anyone that's listening, how you want to participate in the design. It's showing you the options.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kimberly, and I agree. I fully agree. Lauren, everyone, small group, final thoughts.
Yes, I think that everybody is affected, although not everybody is awake right now. So to everybody here on this panel and everybody here joining us for this conversation, I just want to say thank you so much for being a front runner in all of this and answering this wake up call, because this is going to be beautiful. This is getting exciting.
Thank you, Lauren. And, this is kind of something I ended the conference on. My last talk is, guys, we are the forerunners in this community. We are at the beginning of something that is going to grow and grow and grow and expand and expand. People are going to start coming to us and wanting to know, hey, what do you know about this effect? What have you found? You've been researching it. What do you know? What's going on? They're going to be looking for answers, and they're going to be coming to us. The people in this community who have been here, that have done the research, that have been looking into it, that have been living the life of the affected. So anybody comes to you guys with questions, please take just a couple minutes to speak to them. That can mean the difference in their life between sitting on the couch in a ball, rocking back and forth for a week, or hosting a show about the Mandela effect. Honestly, it could make that much of a difference just having somebody there to encourage you and to talk to about this. So as we go forward from this and the end of this conference, ladies and gentlemen, remember, please be there for those that are coming into this community, because they're where you were a couple years ago. Maybe some of us have forgotten. A lot of us were in a fearful state. Some of us were just more excited than we know what to do with. Either way you cut it, we know what it's like when we first find the effect. And heck, some of us know what it's like to still find effects. There's just that feeling we get. Well, people don't understand when they find these effects what's going on. Some people think it's tribulation. Some people think the world is absolutely ending today. Especially those you really want to kind of counsel and calm down a little bit. But always be there, guys, for people who want to talk about this. Because remember, we're not always lucky enough to have someone in our life that we can talk to about this. So if you have the opportunity, please, I urge everyone, definitely do that. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson, Chris Anatra, Shane Robinson, Kimberly Lynn Hansen, and Lauren Cannell Pavelka, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as Dark Wolf. This is Dark Wolf's Den, and remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Bless you.
Way to go.